As a daughter, she's the light of the house. As a wife, she completes half of her iman. As a mother, Jannah lies under her feet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Bibi Aisha Leher, presenter and producer of the show Phenomenal Woman, every Thursday between 1:30 and 2:30 right here on IFM 88.3. Tune in to be inspired, educated, motivated and empowered on issues affecting the lives of women. When women stand together, amazing things happen.
Extraordinary, Allah has blessed me. Live forever, not temporary.
Live from Port Elizabeth, South Africa, to the world, this is IFM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You are tuning to IFM 88.3 with me, Bibi Aisha Lehe, on the Phenomenal Woman Show. This afternoon, we will be talking about women and their sons. So, our beloved listeners, you do know that if you would like to send us a message on WhatsApp, it's 067 236 3487, or you can call us on 041 457 1267. Sorry, 1269. So, when we talk about mothers and their sons, we obviously know that it's a very beautiful relationship. It's a very special relationship. It is a bond that has been made from the time the little babaki is in the mother's womb. And when it comes to a mother and her son, the responsibility of the mother is so great. As we all know, under the feet of the mother lies Jannah. But for a man, well, let's say a boy, his first love towards a woman will obviously be his mother. The mother actually lays the benchmark for the way that this young boy will treat every other female he interacts with in his lifetime. Whether it be his sisters, his aunts, his grandmother, his cousins, his friends, his neighbors, and later on his wife. It is his mother who will teach him how to address women. It is his mother who will teach him how to react towards women, how to treat women, how to show respect to women. And obviously it's very, very important as Muslim parents that more than anything, we do not need to be reading books on parenting that are not in line with Sharia. We do not need to be reading books on parenting that doesn't encourage the sunnah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our beautiful deen has already made this possible for us. Look at the sunnah of our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Learn what Quran tells us about your role as a Muslim woman, as a mother. Your lap is your child's first madrasa. And when you know about the sunnah and you bring up your children in that manner, alhamdulillah, you are paving the way for their success in this world and in the year after. So remember, mothers, Jannah lies under your feet, but it also obviously comes with a very, very big responsibility. Remember, being a mother is a blessing, subhanallah, but your children are an amana to you. And you will be questioned by Allah on the upbringing of your children. You will be a parent until your eyes close. Your child can be 62 and you are 84. You are still the parent and you still have a responsibility towards your children. Your children obviously still have a responsibility towards you as well, especially your son, because he is your mahram. So to discuss this very, very pertinent topic with us about mothers and sons, I am delighted and honored to have Maulana Muhammad Iqbal Adam as my guest. Formerly from Bloemfontein, very well known alim, very well known hafiz, very well known human being in South Africa, alhamdulillah, because of his generosity, because of his kindness, and lots of the projects that he's involved in assisting the public regarding various challenges that youth, women and families may be facing. Alhamdulillah, We are so pleased to have with us Maulana Muhammad Iqbal Adam. Welcome to IFM and Phenomenal Woman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a real honor to be with the radio station and to all the listeners.
Shukr, alhamdulillah. It's an absolute blessing to have you share such important reminders with us. Like we say, firstly, it's a reminder to myself and to help to remind our listeners. So, Maulana, as I said in my opening statements regarding mums and their sons, a very, very special relationship with a son a mother has. It's this bond. But if you can please remind us, what does Quran teach us about the role of a Muslim mother?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The Quran, Abba, has different verses which explains to us about the role not only of a mother but obviously a joint role between mother and father. The one verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا, that not at any given time you as a son should offend your parents or say any hurtful words to them, or don't even say oof to them. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا, say to them noble and humble words. Many other verses in the Quran elaborates, where one outstanding verse that says where the Quran teaches us as children to make Rabbir Hamhuma, oh Allah, have mercy upon them, my mother and father, as how they showed mercy upon me. Shower your mercy upon them.
Ameen.
So, from the Quranic perspective, of a very clear it's mention on clear respect towards our parents.
Absolutely. Maulana, for the show today, obviously, like we said, there is responsibility up until our eyes close as well towards our parents. But if Maulana can please share with us some examples. I mean, there's so many, but if you could please share with us some examples of how our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraged the Sahaba to treat their mothers.
There's so many examples of where Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he always elaborated to the Sahabas on the rights of their mother. He showed them the respect that their mother deserves. He mentioned that Jannah, as you started the program, lies under the feet of one's mother. There were so many examples in the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When he went and he came to the qabr of his mother, Bibi Amina, he used to go and cry and say to the Sahabas that although I did not see her, but she's my mother. And he made dua for her. He showed examples, practical examples to the Sahabas on showing love to one's mother. There was a Sahabi that came to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have embraced this great deen. My concern is my mother. Can you please make dua that Allah Ta'ala makes her accept this kalima, accept this deen? And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made dua, and when he got to the doorstep of his mother, it is stated that his mother recited the kalima and the shahada. This was the greatest joy to this Sahabi. Withstanding that, we need to understand that many companions, they came from a background where their parents were non-Muslims. In that point, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam never showed them to disrespect their parents. He always showed them to show kindness to their mothers. Withstanding the fact that many of them, their mothers were not Muslims, he never showed them in any other given way to disrespect them. So, there were so many examples where Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam showed the Sahabas, elaborated to them the respect and the kindness of parents. So we also know every year Ramadan, we hear our ulama saying, when the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam climbed the mimbar, he said Ameen 3 times. The one particular step that he took and he said Ameen, he cried. The Sahaba said, why Ya Rasulullah? He said, because any person that shows disrespect to his mother, Allah Ta'ala will shower him with a great azab on the day of Qiyamah. So yes, there's many stern ahadith that he showed towards respect towards one's mother. And Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself regularly used to show the Sahabas to show great regard and respect to their mothers.
If this doesn't, evoke feelings in our listeners that I'm not spending enough time with my mom, I'm not doing enough for my mom, then this is your reminder, my beloved listeners. We have this notion that we think we have time. We say, I am too busy, I have this to do and that to do and that to do. And yes, you have responsibilities, we understand. But also, these are worldly things. Making khidmat of your parents, especially your mother, seeing to your mother's needs, that is your dunya and your akhirah success. Grab it. Grab it with 2 hands. Grab it. Well, and I just listened to you saying all of this actually sends, goosebumps, because you think to yourself that you have all these blessings just in your home. You have all these blessings just a phone call or a WhatsApp call away. And yet, unfortunately, lots of us have this excuse. I'm too busy. I don't have time. I mean, COVID came. It reminded us that we all wanted to bond with our family, and we said we're going to make this effort, and we had all these goals that we were going to do and change our lives because COVID came and shook us up. How many of us are actually doing that? Something to ponder about, Maulana, don't you think?
Definitely, Appa. Definitely. I mean, there's many clients that come to me and they have lost their mothers and they didn't spend enough time to show that love or show their gratitude to their mothers. And they're sitting with great depression and regret. If they had that moment to spend with that mother and at least take her du'as, their lives would have been much more better. So when opportunities are dawned, especially for the youngsters out there, we sometimes tend to ignore them. We tend to overlook them. And when they're gone, we regret and we cry. But sometimes it's too late.
Absolutely. And like we said, your mother's du'as, these are your doors to Jannah. Your mother's du'as are these blessings. And when your mother is no longer alive, those doors are closed. And, no point in saying, I'm call her on Mother's Day, I'll call her on her birthday, I'll call her on a special, time when I have the time. Every day, as a Muslim, should be Mother's Day. Every day. We don't designate a day to show somebody affection. That should be done absolutely every day. And also, how often do we actually thank our mothers for what they do for us? Especially sons, because somehow sons always have this extra special bond with their moms that sometimes daughters, and me included, we fail to understand. But inshallah, you're going to create, some clarity for us. Maulana, please explain, because this is also a reminder for me first and for our listeners. What does Quran teach us about the role of a son towards his mother while she is still married to his father or the father is still alive? What are his roles and responsibilities? Because he is obviously her mahram anyway.
Well, the role that a son has to play towards his mother, I will just share with you one example.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll explain to you different examples. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi said, if I have to take my mother and put her on my back and make the tawaf of the Kaaba, I have not fulfilled the rights of my mother. In other words, Papa,
Subhanallah.
As a son, whatever we do, we cannot fulfill the rights and the pain of what they went through as we grew up. So,
Definitely.
in other words, as a son, as children, we cannot say that we've done enough or we have fulfilled. We have just fulfilled a bare minimum of what they went through. What they went through, the pain of child at the time of childbirth, the pain of looking after us, the pain of every second to feed us and caring for us. Those rights, Appa, we cannot repay that. Never. What we are
Absolutely.
doing is a bare minimum to fulfill the rights of our mother. That's why I had to quote what Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi said. It comprises this in a nutshell that we cannot say that there are rights and are fulfilling them. We're not. It's just bare minimum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mulana, if you could now
So-
please continue.
Carry on, Appa.
Gee. Now, if we could just explain, again, a reminder to mothers and a reminder to sons that may be tuned in today. What is the responsibility of a son as a mahram towards his mother when her husband, who is his father, passes away, or if she is divorced? What is his responsibility towards her as stipulated in Quran?
The son's responsibility, Appa, is to take and look after the well-being of his mother. That means he has to provide for her, he has to take care of her, he has to give her strength and support, emotional and psychological support all the time. His responsibility as a son, as executed by Quran and Hadith, that he has to show utmost respect and fulfill the rights of what his mother cannot do. Example, his mother lost the father, she's alone, she's old, she needs that strength, she needs that support, she needs that love, she needs financial support. He needs to fulfill that. As a son, many a times, Appa, the Quran mentions about the laws of inheritance. As a son, he needs to fulfill the rights of inheritance appropriately according to Sharia and make sure that his mother is well taken care of. The very sad situation, Appa, in today's time, as children, as I sit and talk to you, I have tears in my eyes because I've witnessed it, I've seen it. The children have not fulfilled the rights of their mothers.
Definitely, 100%.
And many a times, it is sad to see that our mothers are going to homes because they are not being taken care by the children.
Absolutely. It's actually so sad that there are homes, sort of so-called old age homes and homes where ladies, mums, need to be taken care of. I just need to share this example because I have tears in my eyes as well as you are speaking. So there's, a particular establishment in Johannesburg that I used to enjoy visiting, because there used to be all these beautiful, I used to always call them the youngest woman in Johannesburg live there. Let's put it that way. There's all these gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful grannies and mas, and they used to be so, so excited when they used to get visitors. And I remember the caregiver there, these were ladies that came from Soweto and Procha Glen and surrounding areas. And the one lady actually told me, Bibi Aisha, in our culture, as a Xhosa woman, your mother is second to God. You revere her. You look after her. No decision is made without her blessing. She's the elder. Even the father consults with the mother. And she actually made a comment as far as to say that it breaks my heart that I actually have to come to do a job like this because I am surrounded by so many other people's mothers. And do you know what? There are some of these mothers who see their children once in 3 months, maybe, or once in 4 months because we have to phone them because the mother's asking, where is my son? And that just... it was so embarrassing to hear something like that. But on the other hand, you think that also these centers are obviously created because there isn't a home or a safe place for our beloved mothers. You know, mothers in the sense that, you know, like grannies in the neighborhood or in your community, in family. There isn't a place where they can be taken care of. And we're not judging anyone to say that if you're putting your mother there, it's wrong, you're very bad. We understand their circumstances. We understand that obviously when moms get older and they have, challenges, sometimes you feel you may need that help or whatever it is. We're not judging anyone. But it's just sad that when we were babies, whatever it is that we went through, we think of the hours spent, days spent by our moms without sleep, seeing to our needs. And now, when they're not well, we get irritated. When they ask us questions, about things where they forget and we need to answer several times, we get irritated. But when we were children and asked them things like 50 times, they answered it 52 times. Something to think about. Well, Anna, the other question that we need to talk about now, which is very important as well, that when a woman is divorced and she has a son, obviously when he's a young child, his responsibility is different towards her. But as an adult, right, like we said, his responsibility towards her is to take care of her financially and to see to all of her needs. Am I correct? He is her mahram.
That's right.
Okay, so if Malana can just elaborate on that a bit, because that unfortunately also during my sessions when I do coaching as well, there is a complaint from a lot of the ladies that the sons who are her mahrams do not take care of her. They say they can't afford it. They say they're battling in their lives. They say they can't manage. But Allah gave you the responsibility. It's your duty. It's an obligation. If Malana can please elaborate.
From the Islamic perspective, when your mother reaches old age or she loses she's a widow or whatever she went through, or she has health that's ill, she cannot cope or she cannot look after herself. So it becomes the responsibility of the son to look after her and to keep a stable grounding for her in a sense of financial, emotional, psychological well-being. We need to understand this in very clear perspectives, Rafa, that many of the children are working. We understand. You earn a bare minimum salary, right?
Yes.
So it becomes very difficult to say, can I look after my mom? I don't have money. I got my own family. I call those. Islamically, it's just a simple thing. It's taking care of them emotionally, psychologically, and making sure the bare minimum that they are taken care of.
Malana,
Appa with me?
I'm listening, Malana. I'm listening.
Yeah.
And when it comes to their financial needs?
Yes, it's the son's responsibility to take care of his parents, of his mother, because Islamically, that's the ruling. If a child is baligh, is mature, is working, and his parents are at an old age, they cannot care for themselves, then it becomes the responsibility of the son to take care of them.
Absolutely.
But, however, Appa, in your coaching, in our sessions with clients, this is a very common problem. And you will find that parents nowadays, if they're listening to me, they will make one particular dua at this time. That, Ya Allah, don't make us muhtaj.
Yes.
Don't make us dependent on our children.
Yes.
Make us independent. If we come to the stage of dependence, then take us away.
Yes. Sadly, that's what a lot of people say. It's so hard.
Yes. So this is, unfortunately, it's sad for me to say this, but it's unfortunate that that's what's happening at the moment.
Definitely. But again, like we
So
say, this is what
Islamically,
Quran has said.
the Quran or the Hadith hasn't put a difficult burden on the son that if you can't, but it, a simple things in life, simple things that you can do as a son, that you can afford to do or give that support. You can do that.
Absolutely.
There are situations, Appa, where the children left their mothers unattended and not even giving them medical support.
Yes.
And to this, it led to many complications of health within the mother. So it's a simple thing. It's just simple support structure. That's what is required.
But just also a reminder, and this is the reality, hence we choose these topics based on what is going around in various communities and actually everywhere. But the thing is that, yes, it's going around, but what are we going to do about it? We need to fix because Allah's watching. The other thing that's also important is that when we know, there's excuses, I don't have time, I don't have enough money, I don't have this. When you were born, you came with barakah. Every child is born comes with risk. So your risk will still be there. If your niyat is that when I'm working, I am going to give X amount to my mother, Allah will make that reality for you because you are making that niyat. When you're putting your trust in Allah and you're making that effort, Allah will put that in you. The other thing which is sad is when you're speaking about medical health that parents need and, elderly parents, what people fail to understand, what sons sometimes fail to understand, and we're not generalizing, but what we're speaking about is these are facts based on what we're seeing, that by you ill-treating your mother, by you being rude to your mother, by you not making time for your mother, by you saying, I don't have money to give my mother, you are indirectly teaching your son how to treat his mother, who is your wife. You are indirectly teaching your children, your daughters and your sons how to treat you when you are old. Because if you set this example of following the sunnah, then that's the foundation you are laying for your children, and they're going to follow you and they're going to bring up their children in that way, and that's how it's going to go on. But if you are blinded by this dunya and you're chasing dunya and you're letting these blessings go, then unfortunately life is full circle. The same thing is going to happen to you because your children are going to say, but you did it. And you think young children are not watching you. You think your adult children are not watching you. Trust me, they are. Children learn more from what we do rather than what we say. So something to think about. Malana, the next question I'm going to ask you, and it's a bit of a difficult question and I'm putting you in the spotlight here, but do you still think that mothers in today's day and age, knowing about the deen, knowing about sunnah, knowing about Quran, do you still think mothers follow more of a cultural sort of manner in which they hold sons in higher regard than they do regarding daughters? Not regarding daughters, sons in a higher status as compared to daughters, where my daughter must clean this and pick this up and this and this. But no, my son can't do it because he's a boy. Really? Maulana, your thoughts? Doing household chores is a sunnah of our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's an ibadah. So do you feel this is still very much prevalent where a son won't pick up his plate after he eats, where sons are not expected to make beds, where sons are not expected to help in the house, but daughters are?
Yes, most definitely, Abba, from the sessions that we have and places that I've been, you'll find this a very common problem where the son is treated as like you can't do that, the daughter has to do that. And you'll find that it has a ripple effect. A ripple effect in the sense that that son, as he becomes a husband, he will not even pick up a cup to take to the patient.
Yes.
Because under his impression, his wife has to do that, And this is what we inculcated to him when he was a son. So I feel the culture needs to change, the system needs to change. It's not contrary to Sunnah if you tell your son to help your daughter and wash the dishes or do something in the kitchen or things like that. it actually makes that son realize that when he gets married, he will be a responsible and a good husband to his wife.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, and he's also practicing a sunnah, which inshallah his children will learn from him, and the cycle will continue. And every time your child does the good that you've taught them, it's sadaqah jariyah for you, which we often forget.
Yeah, most definitely, Appa. So I feel you're right. And I feel that it's time that as parents, we have a certain, like a timetable. That's what I tell the parents. Have a timetable and give it to your children, a boy, girl, whoever, if you have, and just give them a timetable and tell them, Monday is your time to clear the table. Tuesday it's the daughter's time to clear the table. It's fair, equal, and there's responsibility being taught.
Most definitely. To our beloved listeners, please don't go away. Short ad break. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts. Like we said, please don't go away. Still so much more to discuss. Jazakallah.
Hey, the mighty lion, top of the food chain. Hello from the other side. Someday, زاد حولي قلبي. Because I have the noble Quran, and that's where I get my rules. Because remember that with every hadith I read, you're not alone, Syria. You're not alone. Just keep holding on.
This is IFM.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are back on IFM 88.3 on the Phenomenal Woman Show with me, Bibi Aisha Lehe. And this afternoon, we're talking about mothers and sons with Maulana Muhammad Iqbal Adam from Johannesburg. So, Maulana, we covered, a lot of the very, very important reminders from Quran and from Sunnah. So it's nothing that we're thumb-sucking. This is what Allah expects from us as Muslims. But now I need to ask you something, Maulana. When it comes to a mother, like we say, the mother's lap is the child's first madrasa. So obviously as a mother, there's a big responsibility on her regarding the upbringing of her son and his interpersonal relationships with females thereafter. Maulana, do you agree? And how should she utilize this period as a mother in grooming a gentleman following the sunnah?
First of all, Appa, you rightfully said it. The madrasa begins with the lap of the mother. As one poet says that, my beloved mother, you have taught me the Quran. You have made me memorize the Quran. You incline me to the love of the Quran, So it starts the root of inclination to Deen or Quran or grooming your child. It starts from the foundation of the mother. And it's due to that the child he draws up a perspective of life because of what he's seen. We call it a structural belief and value structure, which he gains from his mother. So, Appa, you are aware that when you meet clients or when you meet people and you'll ask them their beliefs and values, you will notice something amazing. The beliefs and structures that have been put by the mother will become the beliefs and structures of your life as to where you are today.
100%. Your environment.
Your values will become what you've become today. If you go to, I'm not advertising on air, but if you go to Nando's Upper, you will see that one of the things that catches me there is that how it started and what he said, that, he was taught honesty and integrity by his mother. So, what you want your son to be and how you groom your son and what you put the belief and value structure in that little boy will make and determine his future.
Absolutely.
an interesting story about Edward Graham, who was the founder of Edward Bell, was the founder of the telephone. The teacher wrote a letter to his mother, and his mother opened the letter, and she told, my son, the school said you are a highly intellectual individual. You cannot go back to school from tomorrow. And this guy, he sat at home, this young boy, and he invented, because his mother empowered him to make him believe that he's an intellectual guy, he invented the telephone. After the death of his mother, many years later, as a grown man, he went through those letters and he read the letter and he cried. The letter stated, when he was a small boy, that, dear ma'am, your son is not fit to be in our school. He doesn't have the intellectual capacity to be here with us. Please keep him at home. Did his mother tell him that? No. She didn't want to break his heart. She lied to him and she told him he's highly intellectual.
Imagine that. Well, I have to, just make a comment that obviously through observation, and you see it with, mums in our families and mums in communities, that in their heart, they know when their children are not visiting them, when their children ridicule them, when their children don't bother about their existence but are worried about when they pass away, they want the inheritance, because that seems to be the only rule that sometimes we remember in certain cases. But yet mothers will still make dua for these children. Mothers will still make excuses for their children. Maybe my son is busy. Maybe my son is sick. Maybe my son tried to call me and my battery was low. Or maybe my son tried to call me and my battery died. Because that's what mothers do. That's what mothers do. They cover up for their children because they love their children. And no mother would like to think bad of her child. So that's something for us as listeners to remember, that mothers will do anything for you, but are we doing this for our mothers? But Molana, at some point in time, that love that a mother has for her son can, in certain circumstances or in certain situations, that love can become a little bit of an obsession, and that sacrifice, which I want to say in inverted commas, can actually become toxic. So at what point in time is the mother's love a sort of hindrance in her son's future or in his life?
Appa, you must understand that Nabi Sallallahu said to us that, the mother's love is incumbent on this earth to a very high extent, the heart of the mother. Her heart embraces love for her children to every kind of level. You with me, Appa?
Yes, definitely.
So in any kind of difficulty or situation, even if the child is a drug addict or is a write-off, for the mother, she has still immense love for that son, and she's continuously having hope that the son is going to change and become a better person.
Absolutely.
So your answer to your question, Appa, can there be a boundary to this love? There has to be. And as parents, as a mother, it's very difficult. We sometimes cross this boundaries and we go overboard in showing love. And then in that way, we're making our children very weak. We're making them absolutely dependent on us all the time. So there has to be a time, Appa, where we need to let our children live a life with self-independence and let them make the choices of accountability on their own by you creating a support structure around them.
Definitely.
I don't know if that
makes a lot of sense. But I think also, Molan, the context in which I was, talking about is when a son gets married. It's a very, very joyous occasion for a mother. Which mother wouldn't be happy and proud? But there are times when there's going to be conflict between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. So there's the mother and her son, and that's that bond. And then there's husband and wife, and that's that bond. And often, again, like I said, we choose the topics based on what is generally going on around communities, and also around, what we see regarding coaching. So in that particular instance, in that picture, it's always the son that's in the middle. He wants to please his mom. He also wants to please his wife. And you've been faced with this challenge many times in dealing with people that you assist. Maulana, please elaborate.
But it's our Deen, you mentioned this in the beginning, that Islam has a solution to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So 1400 years ago, Nabi Sallallahu explained to us, like when you get married, it is incumbent for the son to find his own accommodation. Are you with me?
Yes, I am. I'm following you, Maulana.
In that way, Appa, when he finds his own accommodation, he will still show love to his mother, and he will still show love to his wife. What's happening in our time, Appa, we're pushing this issue of, you have to stay with my mother. There's no way out. That's where we stay. And that causes a great conflict in marriages. And that's why we've seen that certain marriages has even gone to a point of divorce due to the fact that we are forcing an issue that we want to stay in one roof, in one home, So you cannot create that kind of balance, because obviously you need to take your wife and give her her independence, and the mother has to have her independence. There also has to be a boundary which you have to draw, and you have to have a line between that boundary. In other words, your mother can't cross the boundary to your wife's territory, and your wife can't cross that boundary. So in that way, there'll be a peace and harmony between the both.
Mm-hmm.
So in many circumstances, Appa, you get young couples coming to me, and I ask them a question that one day when your son gets married, how will you react?
Mm-hmm. And what do they say?
Exactly. So that's the point. The point is, Appa, that for now, I'm angry, I'm upset. It's like I can't take this. But then when you have a son and he gets married, it will be the same situation. And this is where you as a husband, when you get married, find your own independence, look after your mother in a different place. You stay separately. That's the first step of success.
Mm-hmm.
The second step is make it known to your wife and to your mother about the boundaries. Don't cross the boundaries. Mm-hmm. That will create harmony and respect for one another.
Definitely. And
in so many situations,
yes,
the mother will just phone and say, you know what, just come home, I need to see you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm planning to go out for dinner with my wife,
Mm-hmm.
So at that moment, there's a fight between the husband and wife, because the son is now saying, I have to go, mommy has to see me.
Mm-hmm.
But at that moment, you have to tell your mother that it's my wife's time, I will come and see you after the dinner. I don't mind coming, That way you're creating the boundary. There'll be respect for you, and there'll be a respect your wife will have for your mother, because you are creating that boundary and showing where you stand and what you're doing. There's a very difficult situation, Appa. It's very difficult in our time, and it's becoming a serious problem and issues in many marital issues that we deal with all the time.
Absolutely. I have a comment here from one of our listeners that's just saying that, whenever I have an issue with my mom-in-law or she with me, and I speak, to my husband, he just says, that's between the two of you, I'm not getting involved. And she says, I don't feel that's fair. Please advise.
Can Appa repeat that?
says is when there's a conflict between the mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law, and when the daughter-in-law approaches her husband, right, to assist, and he says, that is between the two of you, I'm not getting involved.
Okay, this is very common. We deal with it all the time. In marital counseling, we deal with this all the time. The husbands feel that they don't want to get involved with this matter because it's going to create a strain in the relationship between him and his mother. So he tells his wife that you deal with it. It's wrong. As a husband, what he needs to do is he needs to speak to his mother privately and address the situation to her with respect, as the Quran says, and outline to her what are the issues. Because if he's not going to do that, it's going to create a conflict where his wife is going to go and approach the mother, and it will become a bigger problem.
Definitely. And the
So
thing...
I would advise that husband, that lady's husband, if there's an issue, don't overlook it. Address it with your mother privately and come back to your wife and say, I've spoken to her, I'm trying to sort it out.
And the important thing would be, is, like we said, obviously a man's love for his mother and a man's love for his wife is obviously different. He loves both of them, but differently. So it also puts the man in a difficult situation. But the thing is that both parties need to understand that they're not competing with one another because their role in this man's life is very different. So I think that needs to be the first point of understanding. Maulana, I think for new mums, like we said earlier, that a mother's lap is her child's first madrasa. So for new mummies that are listening in right now, Maulana, what would you like to say to them?
For new mummies, I would tell them that your structure for your child is to teach your child, and I always say this to parents that come to me, and I always believe this very firmly. Teach your children to have self-independence, self-efficacy. Self-efficacy means make your child, teach him, train him, show him all the good. Teach him Salah, teach him Quran, teach him Hifz. Whatever you want him to do, let him do that. But you don't become like you are actually studying for your son. Many parents they actually writing exams more than the children. They stressing and they going through anxiety and depression because the son is writing exams and he needs to pass. He needs to get 90, In the end of the day, teach your children self-efficacy. Let them be accountable for what they're doing. If they didn't study or they're not doing how they're supposed to perform, let them be accountable. You are making a solid, a structured human being. You're building a foundation, a generation that's going to be strong and that's going to take accountability for their actions.
Inshallah.
What's lacking today in the world, leaders, everyone, are not taking accountability for their actions.
Yes. Everyone's passing the buck, blaming somebody else.
There's no self-efficacy. In this way, as a young mother, support your child, but make him responsible to take responsibility in the house and let him be, groom him to be in accountability of his actions.
Most definitely. I think, Maulana, when it comes to older sons also, for mums, like we say, teach them to become financially independent from the time they're teenagers. I mean, look at COVID. There were these young families where fathers were like in their 40s and they passed away with COVID. And there's this young boys growing up, teenagers, and now you, this mahram, looking after your mother and your sisters, and you don't know what to do when you are battling. And, there were fathers who had these businesses that were thriving, and all of a sudden now COVID came and this father passed on, and this young boy who had these dreams of going to university or, pursuing a career now has to carry on with the family business or needs to get into the family business and has no clue about it. And the thing is that if we're empowering children from a young age, that this is my business, this is how you do this and this, if you're empowering them from a young age, to get a weekend job, then when they are faced with these realities, I'm not going to say challenges, when they are faced with these realities, especially boys, they can actually grow into the role of men overnight with ease.
Most definitely, I agree with you, and I always believe in that. And make your children grow up with self-independence.
Yes.
And make them understand that certain times you cannot give them everything in life. Certain times they need to understand your financial position. They need to understand where you come from. And as young mothers, Appa asked me to give advice. Don't over-spoil them on something that you can't afford.
Yes.
Because you're actually digging a hole and making a bigger problem for you in the future.
Absolutely. And when they're older, it's going to be problems in their marriages. So I think then we would come to the point where, especially I would think for young mothers and even mothers that are listening in right now, teaching your children from a young age the difference between wants and needs. I need school shoes because it's important. But buying a particular brand name because it's in fashion, that's a want. It's not a need. I need to get stationery to go to school. But having the latest cell phone because that's what my friends have, that is a want. It's not a need. Again, when you're an adult, when you're getting married, the way you've been treated in your father's house, you can't expect the same treatment in your husband's house. For a boy, when he's getting married, if he marries a girl who has been given lots of luxuries and he feels he can't live up to that standard, it's putting lots of unnecessary pressure. Like you say, Maulana, teaching children from a young age, especially sons, of living according to their means, living simply, living according to Sunnah, eradicates a lot of unnecessary problems in the future.
Most definitely, Appa. A person took his son one day to a rural area, and he showed his son that see how these people live, and see their conditions, and see how they maintain their life, And he said to his son, that see what Daddy has given you, like a beautiful house, a pool, and all that. And as he was coming back, he asked his son, what were your thoughts on this? And he said to his dad, my dad, today you have taught me something, that there are people that are richer than us.
SubhanAllah.
And the father looked at him and said, what do you mean? And he said, Dad, as much as they didn't have electricity in their homes, but I found them to be content and happy. I found animals running around, which they can use for food. I saw a river there, which they can use for water. And I saw these people so content and so happy, and we have everything, but we are not content and happy. So I feel that they are richer than us.
SubhanAllah, what an answer from a young, masoom, innocent heart. That's what children learn. Children are not born with prejudice. Children don't know the value of things. They don't know brand names. They don't know what's in fashion, what isn't. They learn that from us. They pick up on our habits.
Yes.
So that's very important. Yes. And also, Maulana, I think unfortunately we're going to be coming to the end of the show and so many things still that we need to cover. Alhamdulillah, lots of positive feedback, but also to ask you, Maulana, please, if you can share one bit of advice or reminder to sons that are listening right now, irrespective of their age, what would that be?
To all the sons or daughters or children that are listening to the show today, it is sad to see in today's time, the way we treat our parents and our mothers. It is sad to hear of conditions where children swear their parents and tell them what they feel like telling them. Remember that mother, she makes dua for you. Allah Ta'ala listens to her dua and accepts her dua. Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi was born blind, and his mother sat up and she made dua for him. And she said, Ya Allah, make my son a hafiz, make my son shine in the world. And Allah accepted the dua. He gained his eyesight, and today Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi's name shines throughout the world.
Subhanallah.
Remember, the dua that they give you, you will never get it. Don't disrespect them. Always show love and kindness to them. I've seen children that have totally disrespected their parents and showed no love to them. Today, they are sitting with depression, anxiety, all kinds of problems because they are crying for the day that when I'm going to ask my mother for dua. Allah has given them to you. They are a great weapon for you to ask them for dua every day in your life.
Ameen.
That's my closing message.
Well, and Adam, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your duas and grant you better than what you pray for. And may Allah reward you in abundance for coming onto the show today and empowering us and teaching us and reminding us of these important reminders. May Allah accept all your duas, and please remember myself, my family here at IFM, and all the listeners in your duas, inshallah.
Ameen, Abba.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair, Malana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To our beloved listeners, if you are fortunate to still have your mother, I'm talking to the sons who are listening, I'm not going to even tell you pick up that phone. I'm going to tell you go make an effort and go and spend time with your mother. Go and spend time with your mother. Pamper her, rub her feet, play with her, wash her hands for her, brush her hair, buy a beautiful gift that she likes. Spend the entire day just you and her because you think you have time and you don't. To the mothers that are listening out there, you have rights over your sons. Allah has given you those rights over your sons. Use it. Your sons have an obligation towards you. Make dua for them that Allah grants them the hidayah to follow through those obligations. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create muhabbat and unity amongst all families. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the hidayah to lead lives that will please Allah first. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for our shortcomings and accept all our duas, inshallah. To all the mummies who are listening out there, please remember us in your duas. Alhamdulillah, you are so fortunate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala feels shy to not answer the duas of a mother. Jazakallah khairan. On behalf of myself and my sound engineer Hamid, we wish you a beautiful week ahead. Until we speak again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Extraordinary, Allah has blessed me. Live forever, not temporary.
As a daughter, she is the light of the house. As a wife, she completes half of her iman. As a mother, Jannah lies under her feet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Bibi Aisha Leher, presenter and producer of the show Phenomenal Woman, every Thursday between 1:30 and 2:30 right here on IFM 88.3. Tune in to be inspired, educated, motivated and empowered on issues affecting the lives of women. When women stand together, amazing things happen.